KARK4 and Fox 16. This is a special report. Here's Mitch McCoy.
Hello and good afternoon to you. I'm Mitch McCoy. We're coming back on. We are following developments that are going to be getting underway here in just a moment, where we are expected to hear from ARDOT Director Lorie Tudor. She is going to be not testifying, but giving information to Arkansas lawmakers regarding the I-40 bridge closure, which you know has sparked nationwide attention. This has certainly been on the minds of lawmakers as we have seen significant media attention and public attention on this bridge closure. You're looking at live pictures from the MAC room near the Arkansas State Capitol, where this meeting is going to be getting underway here very shortly. But let me tell you about some things that have happened today regarding the I-40 bridge closure. As we stand by, we continue to monitor those live pictures. I want to let you know that there was a joint news conference held today by not only Arkansas's governor, but Tennessee's governor as well, saying that it could be months before the Interstate 40 bridge connecting Arkansas and Tennessee could reopen. Obviously, they say safety is a significant concern and a top priority, but commerce is also a major concern regarding the bridge, and there has been a lot of commerce delayed. The Truckers Association saying it's costing them millions of dollars per day. This while barge traffic was able to resume earlier, late last week. That decision was made by the United States Coast Guard after being briefed by not only Arkansas but Tennessee transportation officials. We are standing by. Let me take you back into these live pictures. This is one of the MAC rooms near the Arkansas State Capitol. The woman you see on the right-hand side is Lorie Tudor. She is the director of the Arkansas Department of Transportation, and she is the one who will be giving an update to the Highway Commission Review and Advisory Subcommittee. That is a group of lawmakers. They will be asking her questions, and she will be providing answers to Arkansas lawmakers regarding the issues regarding the Interstate 40 bridge connecting Arkansas to Tennessee. This it will be interesting to see if there's any new information revealed today by the Arkansas Department of Transportation. Let's just talk about some things we don't know just yet, right? There are some things we don't know, and some of that stems from the number of bridges that need to be re-inspected. We learned yesterday that the Arkansas Department of Transportation will have to re-examine, re-review bridges that the now fired bridge inspector completed. We don't know how many bridges that is. It could be interesting to see if lawmakers ask Director Tudor that question and if that information is released today. It will be interesting to see if there have been any significant changes overnight related to the bridge inspection program. We heard from Director Tudor. She mentioned that that was going to be under consideration. There were a lot of things that were going to be looked at related to Arkansas's bridge inspection program, which the Federal Highway Administration is also looking at as well. If you're just joining us, I want to welcome our viewers in from across Arkansas. If you just got your mobile phone app, maybe you're scrolling through Facebook, stay with us. Any moment now, Arkansas lawmakers will be questioning ARDOT Director Lorie Tudor regarding the I-40 bridge damage. And this is a subcommittee. This is the Highway Commission Review and Advisory Subcommittee, which is responsible for some of the highways in the state of Arkansas. And you see the lawmakers in that room there. They will be the ones questioning ARDOT's director on the I-40 bridge damage. Obviously, major concerns regarding commerce in the state. We just learned late last week that the U.S. Coast Guard has resumed barge traffic. We learned since Friday night at 8 p.m. more than 800 barges had already passed through. They had clearance to go under that Interstate 40 bridge on the Mississippi River. So there is certainly a lot of attention on this. A joint news conference held earlier today, a very rare moment where you have Tennessee's governor, you also have Arkansas's governor holding this joint news conference discussing this bridge closure. So certainly a lot of information. We are expecting these updates to begin any moment. As soon as this meeting begins, we will stream it live for you. We will take it across all of our platforms on air and online for you as well. And if you miss any part of it, you can join us on KARK for news at 4, and then of course Fox 16 News at 5:30 as well, as we continue to watch and monitor these live pictures. Again, expected to begin any moment from now. It looks like the meeting is starting to begin. Let's listen in live here as ARDOT Director Lorie Tudor walks up to that table where she is beginning her testimony in front of Arkansas lawmakers regarding the Interstate 40 bridge closure. Again, if you can't watch the entire thing, we'll have a complete wrap-up beginning at 4 o'clock on KARK and Fox 16 News at 5:30. For now, I'm Mitch McCoy.
Last week, and it was an emergency, and this is our week to meet. Hadn't planned on having a meeting, but I appreciate the department for its willingness to give us an update and give members a chance to ask questions, and you guys to answer. And if you would, just whoever you want, Director Tudor and whoever you want to come up and just state your name, and you're welcome to proceed. I think everybody's got a packet. If you
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lorie Tudor, the Director of the Arkansas Department of Transportation. And with me today, I have my Deputy Director and Chief Engineer, Rex Vines. I'm going to talk about kind of what has happened since about this time last week. It's been 1 week. We were in a meeting talking about some type of work from home policy, and Rex and some others started getting phone calls. And so a lot's happened in a week. So today I'm glad to have this opportunity to speak to everyone and let you know where we're at, and then offer to answer any questions we can at this point. Hopefully we can answer all of them. I have a great team of engineers behind me that if we can't answer, hopefully they can. So with that, I'll get started.
I'm Mitch McCoy back here in Little Rock. While we work on regaining that connection, let's bring you to another source where we're learning ARDOT's director is being questioned on the I-40 bridge damage.
I-40 bridge was closed to traffic. Notified, and the Memphis Police Department was dispatched. The bridge was closed to vehicular traffic and the river was closed to barge traffic as a safety precaution. Arkansas and Tennessee Departments of Transportation began immediate coordination to evaluate the severity of the issue. The I-40 bridge agreement between Arkansas and Tennessee is that ARDOT is responsible for routine and special bridge inspections, and TDOT is responsible for maintenance and repairs. Our states share the cost equally. ARDOT and TDOT called in nationally known engineering experts in bridge forensics to help our forces perform a diagnostic evaluation. And that brings us to today. A picture from a drone video showing that the fracture was visible in 2019 was circulating through social media. when we saw that, we weren't sure if it was a doctored photo or what, so we verified and we found that the photo was indeed authentic. And we found that out on Friday, last Friday, May 14th. I've included a picture of that 2019 photo in your handout. Everyone should have a handout with a lot of pictures, with about 5 pictures and some information. This picture, how we were able to verify it, is Michael Baker had a 5-hour drone video of the cables and the rods and the truss part of the bridge. There was a 5-hour drone video shot by Michael Baker in 2019, and we went through that video and found indeed that crack was visible on the beam. So let me tell you a little bit about our bridge inspection program. But it's based on nationally accepted bridge inspection standards. ARDOT has 27 bridge inspection teams across the state, in addition to hiring and managing consultant teams to supplement our staff. In 2020, we performed 10,384 inspections on state highways, county roads, and city streets. Now, the I-40 bridge is inspected annually in 3 phases. There's an underwater inspection of the foundation or the piers that's done by a consultant. They dive into the Mississippi River and they make sure everything is all right underneath the water. ARDOT is responsible for inspecting the bridge deck and beam structure, the part that you drive on. That's our responsibility. 384 inspections on state highways, county roads, and city streets. Now, the I-40 bridge is inspected annually in 3 phases. There's an underwater inspection of the foundation or the piers that's done by a consultant. They dive into the Mississippi River and they make sure everything is all right underneath the water. ARDOT is responsible for inspecting the bridge deck and beam structure, the part that you drive on. That's our responsibility. That's what we do internally. And then we have a consultant that does the inspection of the arches. And you can see those pictures in your handout. So it's a 3-part inspection that's done annually on this bridge. From our investigation, we have determined that the same ARDOT employee who conducted the inspection on the deck and beams in both 2019 and 2020 failed to carry out his responsibilities correctly. This is unacceptable, and this employee has been terminated as of yesterday, May 17th. We are in the process of referring this matter to the proper federal authorities for their determination if further investigation, criminal or otherwise, is warranted. And we are continuing our investigation, going up the chain of command to find out if there were any other employees that were negligent in their duties. However, this is not about the failure of one or more employees. This is about the failure in the inspection process that allowed this to happen. Now, I want to take this opportunity to let you know Michael Baker International had nothing to do with this failure in the process. Their job was to look at the trusses, everything above the main bridge, and we are very, very, very thankful for their quick action. When they saw the crack that day on May 11th, the fracture, they immediately notified us and shut down the bridge. So we're very thankful to them, but they are in no way responsible for this fracture not being caught in 2019 or before. Our investigation not only revealed the negligence of an employee, but as I said, it revealed a process failure that is the responsibility of ARDOT. We should have discovered this fracture in 2019, and we are taking steps to hold those responsible for not doing their jobs accountable, but more importantly, to correct the flaws in our process that allowed it to go unnoticed. It's important to note that we follow the Federal Highway Administration's National Bridge Inspection Standards regulations. And in fact, we exceed those standards in some areas. However, this incident highlighted a flaw and that in the processes we've set up to meet those federal standards. So next steps, the Federal Highway Administration will be conducting a comprehensive assessment of ARDOT's bridge inspection program. The assessment will ensure the appropriate policies, programs, and people are in place to meet this responsibility. We welcome this assessment as we move forward to make sure this never happens again. We have already started reviewing our processes, and we are taking action now. We are already adding additional checks and balances along with redundancy. We recently purchased a drone to review our bridges. This will be in addition to hands-on inspections using the snooper. We have to perform a hands-on inspection, and we have the equipment to do so. But the drone video will allow extra eyes to be on those members on the bridge structure and will help put that redundancy in place. I've included a picture of a snooper in your handout. We have requested that Tennessee DOT perform a drone review of the I-55 bridge over the Mississippi River to give confidence to the public that it has been done correctly. This is occurring right now. All fracture critical bridge inspections, and the I-40 bridge is a fracture critical bridge. All fracture critical bridge inspections that were performed by the terminated employee will be re-inspected beginning immediately. No excuses. No excuses. We understand that in order to regain the public trust and confidence, we will need to be transparent and accountable, and we are committed to doing so. We will correct this problem, and we will become better for it. Again, we are so grateful that it was discovered by Michael Baker, and we are so grateful that a light was cast on this process failure before anything catastrophic happened. We are also very grateful for the partnership and support of TDOT and the Federal Highway Administration. This last week has been difficult, but everyone has come together, and it's really been quick how it's all fallen into place. But I ask that you each remember one thing. We did not cause this failure. ARDOT did not cause the failure. We missed identifying it, but we didn't cause the fracture in that beam. So moving forward, we're going to take care of that process failure, but our main focus needs to be on keeping traffic flowing well while the bridge is closed. We need to focus on repairing the bridge correctly so it's safe, it's done the right way, and everyone's safe going over the bridge. And we need to figure out what caused the failure so that we can prevent it from happening on other bridges or this bridge in the future. So there's a lot ahead of us. This has been unfortunate, but it's also been fortunate in that it just highlighted a need that we had that we didn't recognize until now. So with that, I've asked Rex Vines to give you an update on the plan of action going forward this week. A lot has happened just in the last 24 hours. So I'll turn it over to Rex.
Thank you, Director. As of 9 a.m. Friday morning, the U.S. Coast Guard did release barge traffic based on the initial assessment that the bridge was stable and holding its own weight. Last week, immediately after this was discovered, a structural team was formed, including Tennessee Department of Transportation, Arkansas Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration, Michael Baker International, and HNTB. Both Michael Baker International and HNTB are nationally known, well-respected firms with expertise in this type of issue. Each member of this team is committed to working diligently to get this bridge back open to the traffic at the earliest possible time while ensuring its safety. They have worked continuously to develop a design that would provide additional stability to the fractured member and bridge. They worked through the weekend and are continuing to refine the final design before we, as we move forward. They're not sitting and waiting. They are working continuously on that. TDOT provided multiple design contractors requests for qualifications last Friday, and with the requirement that they provide those requests for qualifications and proposals by 10 o'clock yesterday morning. Those were received and reviewed by Tennessee, and these were based on their experience, their expertise, and their availability to quickly mobilize to the job. Yesterday afternoon, Tennessee Department of Transportation chose Kiewit Construction to perform this work, and Kiewit mobilized immediately, and they began yesterday afternoon working with the design team to move forward. I sat in on a meeting yesterday afternoon, and they were fully engaged and were bouncing ideas off each other. It was impressive. The repair will be a two-phase repair. The first phase will be adding structural plating on either side or around the fractured member to stiffen it and to strengthen it, keep continuing propagation of the tear, but also to stabilize it so that we can do the permanent repair. Kiewit, we expect, and they have told us they will be erecting platforms this week to begin the work. The structural plate has been sent, the design has been sent to the manufacturer and should be on site by Thursday. So we're moving quickly on this, and we expect phase one to be complete by the end of this week. So that should stabilize the structure. Phase two is still being refined. There were different ideas being passed around. One of the initial ideas is adding high-strength steel rods to span the structure, to reestablish the strength, and then to remove the weakened part of the member and replace it at a later date. That we expect the timeline right now, and that is several months. We are not sure yet. That will be refined as they refine the process. And then after those repairs have been made, then we will continue to look at the bridge to see if there are any long-term issues related to the original failure that we should be accounting for. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you,
You've been
Rex.
watching the news conference here for
That's
the
24
better
by
half of
36,
a few minutes now.
that beam
Not
that
necessarily a news
failed, right?
conference, but certainly
Approximately,
a case
yes.
where you
Yes.
have
So,
ARDOT,
so this plate will be
Transportation
36
Director,
by
and you have her deputy
36
director,
feet long, or is
Rod.
30
It's
something?
it's approximately 30 feet long, yes.
30 feet long. So,
Specifically about the I-40 bridge closure and what can be done to fix the bridge as quickly as possible, but truly as safely as possible too. So we're going to continue with these live pictures. We're not exactly sure how long this conference or this testimony will last, but we will continue to carry it for you right here live on KARK.com and Fox16.com and across all of our digital platforms. You're watching live coverage from KARK4 and Fox 16.
Boy, you just said they were negligent. You're going to explain that in more detail. Because obviously for 2 years we have video evidence that this crack existed. And from the way you explained it, they do a physical inspection with the snooper actually going down. The picture you have given us shows 2 people on the actual bridge. I imagine doing an actual visual inspection of the bridge. How did this employee miss that? Was it negligent as in they didn't report it? Did they not do the job by showing up? Did the people on the ground see it and it was covered up? Explain in detail how that employee acted negligently to not see this crack in that bridge.
You want to take it? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Great question. Can you hear me? Okay. to just phrase your question differently, and if I'm incorrect, please correct me. How was he negligent in his duties? And the equipment that we use, the snooper, I believe that the video's in that. The way that equipment works for that particular part of the beam is they would drop from the deck down to the beam, and the process is to extend that snooper along the beam so that he can be within arm's reach. Any inspector can be within arm reach of any portion of the bridge that they're inspecting. Then they would change it around and go the other direction. So the length of that boom, they are to get within arm's reach of every section that they're looking at. What this employee was doing is he was dropping to that point, and if you can imagine yourself standing against a wall and looking both directions, you can see parts of the wall, but not all the wall clearly. He was dropping to that point and then looking left and right, but he was not extending beyond the point of his drop down. So he was not seeing the entire structure as he was instructed to.
So this employee is the actual person who's responsible for being in the snooper, visually inspecting the beam, failed to go up and down the beam so he could actually see the crack, and then report it to ARDOT that he had inspected it and that it met no critical failures.
That's correct.
Okay. Can I have a follow-up on a separate issue? Second issue, so on that vein, you don't know the exact cause of this crack yet, is that correct?
Don't know the exact cause is not known.
Oh.
But we believe it's fatigue, and the failure was at a weld.
So that's an important distinction, because I think what we've seen in the conversation since this has been discovered is this is a funding infrastructure issue, when it appears to me that this is a failure to actually do the job or find the crack and repair it in a good time. What I'm nervous about is the people of Arkansas have given a generous amount of money to ARDOT, both through the half-cent sales tax and also through a gasoline diesel tax increase. And the discussion shouldn't be that there wasn't funding to actually repair this, that it was more of a failure to find it, and that is the cause of it. So I'm nervous moving forward that we don't include a larger federal infrastructure package or more money from the state of Arkansas, that this is more about a failure on ARDOT to do that because of this employee's negligence in that case.
If I understand you right, that if we had caught it back in 2019, it wouldn't have cost as much, or it wouldn't have been the same. Is that what you're saying? I don't know.
I guess what I'm saying is the discussion seems to be about now we need more funding for infrastructure, when it appears to me in this case it's less about funding for infrastructure, more about doing routine maintenance and catching a problem before it exists. The thought is, if y'all had found this, y'all would have had the money to fix it. Is that correct?
Well, okay, yes, but the crack that's occurring, the fracture, would have taken the same thing to fix it back in 2019 that it is today. And yes, it's going to cost about the same, but it hasn't got anything to do, I guess, this is just a microcosm of our elderly infrastructure that's starting to fail in certain ways. So I don't think it has anything to do, the money that Washington's wanting to infuse into our infrastructure doesn't have anything to do with lack of is it maintenance, as you're saying? If we had maintained that bridge better, we wouldn't have this problem today. But anyway, I guess what I wanted to say, because I asked this very question, would it have been the same remedy, would it have been the same fix back in 2019 that we're facing right now? If we had seen it back in 2019, would anything have changed? And I was told no, it would have been the same thing, it would have cost the same amount of money. So that fracture didn't really have anything to do with anything we could have done to prevent it. It just started happening. It would have had to have been fixed.
Thank you.
Senator Rice, we have quite a few folks in the queue, and I don't have names up here, so I'm just going to have to go by numbers. So, Senator Rice, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. reading news articles, and basically that's what I heard was what I read in the paper about the possible temporary stabilization and fixing. First time I have heard that it's a possible weld joint. I don't think I've heard that anywhere. Is there something you can tell us that there, you know, we've all seen disasters where a barge has hit a bridge and collapsed it. We had the one up in Minnesota or whatever. Are there failures like this that, I'm not saying they're common, but failures like this that can be pointed to? And I guess going back to Senator Garner's question, you know, we passed a maintenance road tax, and one part of that was to be able to check our bridges, as we're now, that's starting to come into effect, and we'll be able to do that better. But other than a physical inspection of this, there's really not a way that you could have gotten that, because the other part I read is the part that I believe the Baker group were doing when they were doing a different part of the bridge. It was like a 1 second clip that caught that 2019 fracture that would have told us a lot. But how do you see that? I remember somebody in ARDOT, when I was talking to him about a bad condition of a road, he said, you know, I just did that. I went through Skyscape or something. They were looking at a road, and he said, the only reason I remember that I looked at that road back several months ago was a deer jumped out in front of me, and I saw it. The same thing, if you weren't looking for something in a 1 second clip, it would be hard to do. In saying that, I guess what I'm asking in that, if this is a weld joint, not just a break, how do you assess weld joints in the rest of that bridge? Other than, I mean, visual inspection, I'm sure is going to be, you know, primary now, but also, you know, the possibility of future fractures. There's really nothing you can do other than regular inspections. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. I mean, that bridge will be watched like a hawk for that same thing to happen possibly elsewhere, and that'll be part of the forensics. Once they remove that portion that's fractured, they're going to do all kinds of testing and things like that to find out what exactly happened right there, and is there other weak spots on the bridge that possibly could do the same thing, and we could go in there and reinforce those other spots, if you will, in anticipation that it could happen. But that's all to be determined, you know.
But until that section's removed, you really don't know if that is a weld joint or not.
Well, do you know that part?
We do, it is a weld joint, but we're not positive that's where the failure initiated. We think it is, but we're not, until we get the section cut out, we won't know that for sure.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Stubblefield, what number are you? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lorie, in regard to the economic loss that that's being incurred, do you know how much that is? And also, what's it costing to reroute all this traffic to 55, the bridge up north and one down south?
The only number that I know comes from the Arkansas Trucking Association, and they've reported $2.4 million per day for the trucking industry. But other than that, I don't have right now any kind of other estimated cost of what this is to the motoring public. Rex, have you heard anything?
So the trucking industry will absorb all these costs themselves, correct?
Oh, yes, it's just, you know, the detour is about 150 miles.
So should the I-55 bridge, which is, if I understand it correctly, General Berry, isn't it much older than this bridge?
It is much older, but...
And it's being inspected currently?
Yes.
And should they find something wrong with it, what do we do then?
Well, I will say that of course, we understand that confidence in our inspections is low right now. And we just got through inspecting that bridge and it was fine except for some potholes on the deck that we needed to repair. But because of what's happened, we've asked TDOT to do a second review of that and make sure that everything's fine on that bridge. And we're hopeful, I hope we don't have to address that question. It would be devastating to the economy if both bridges got closed, for sure. So I really don't know what else to say except that that would be the very, very worst case scenario, aside from a bridge falling into the river. And we will hope and pray that that's not the case. Everyone would just have to detour. There's only certain bridges across the Mississippi River. It's limited. You've got Crothersville, Helena, West Helena, so.
Thank you, Senator Stubblefield. As a matter of fact, this is not the current director's fault. This is not anybody who's on the commission's fault. This is not anybody in this room's fault. That's this infrastructure situation is something that we've kicked the can down the road and spent money on things that don't involve our economy and how we move stuff to market. And it's time that we do that. And that bridge that everybody's having to go over is older than the directory is, and the bridge that's in failure is my age. So that's what we're dealing with, and that's what you're having to deal with, and we're going to deal with as a nation united. The next one in the queue is 106. 106, Representative Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I just have probably these questions that everybody's asking. So we have one person that inspects the bridges. We don't have redundancy built in our inspection, and there's someone that follows behind them, and the same person inspects the same bridge year after year after year.
Yes, ma'am. This particular employee was the only one. He was a team leader, and that's part of our flaw in our process that we're going to fix. That we have that redundancy, those checks and balances. So you're exactly right. That's a big problem that we did not catch, that he was not doing his job, and that's what we have to address as a department, and we will.
Follow up, Mr. Chair. I guess and I understand it wasn't in your watch when this crack happened, but it was the watch of ARDOT. It was their responsibility to make sure that these bridges were inspected and inspected properly. And I understand that. It's not you didn't build it, but ARDOT's responsibility was the inspection. ARDOT failed in that duty, and it's a big duty. And as you brought out, it puts all the other inspections you do in question. Because if it can happen with one and a critical infrastructure like this, it can happen on minor ones, which would be catastrophic for small communities if they lost a bridge. Mm-hmm. But the gentleman that did the I-40 inspection, is he the same gentleman that did the I-55 inspection, the bridge?
I don't recall that.
I'm trying to think. He was on there with other people. So there's a group of, there's probably 4 to 6 people on the 55 the last time.
He was not the team leader on that. He was part of the team, but he was not the primary on that.
But he was the one that actually was supposed to be looking for cracks, just like he was supposed to be looking for cracks on the I-40.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Is it the reverse? We inspect the 55, or we inspect the 40, and Tennessee inspects the 55, or or is it an agreement?
We do all the inspections on those bridges with Tennessee.
Okay. All right. Next in the queue is 114. Who is that? 114.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lorie, the old bridge that went over, I think it was built in the 1940s, but it was a shorter bridge than the one that they're using now. I just wonder, probably you didn't have earthquake standards in place then, and I don't even know if you had it in 1973, but you're right there on the New Madrid Fault, where all the shaking goes on all the time, where they live and where I live too. But what I kind of wonder is, you got all this farm equipment, and you're going from, say, a 6-lane to a 4-lane, and you're redirecting that traffic, and that's going from Arkansas to Mississippi and vice versa to Tennessee. How is that affecting the overall picture with slowing things down? Can you tell us that?
Well, the last report I got is, and I've been in contact several times over the last week with my counterpart in Tennessee, and in talking to our staff, the traffic's flowing fairly well, all things considered. The last I heard have you heard anything else? Everything was flowing pretty good. People are either detouring or the 55 bridge is able to take the extra load. Rex, have you got any additional information?
No, ma'am.
Answer your question, Representative Wright? Okay.
Next in the queue is 112. Who is that? Senator Chesterfield?
Yes, it is I, Mr. Chair. Thank you. And thank you for being here. What are the next steps? I know that we've had a breakdown and that we know now that we have to look at our processes and provide backup, if you will, to the individuals that we have in place to do this sort of thing, to have someone follow up after them to make sure that we have it. But where do we go from here? I heard about the temporary fix, but the temporary fix will not allow us to travel the bridge. Is that right?
That's correct. If we're talking about actually repairing the bridge and getting it open to traffic, I'll defer to Rex on that.
So we'll just walk me through the steps. We'll have the temporary fix, and then what happens next? Tell me a timeline. I'm sure the people of who travel 40 would like to know, is there a timeline that we have in mind as a result of the contracts that we're letting, or that we let for bid?
Yes, ma'am. We do expect the temporary fix to happen this week. The final timeline has not been nailed down yet because the contractor is working with the design group on the final design. They are expecting it to be a few months, as much as several months, but they have promised to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until the repair is done.
So we're looking at perhaps July?
Or possibly longer, yes.
August.
But may I say that, of course, we've only been a week into this, and we will, as soon as we get information, this is going to, it's probably the next couple of weeks, it's going to change daily. And if you all want me to, we'll just do an email. I've got a little email going to certain people that have asked to be kept updated, but I'll put everyone in this committee on that email so we just get that latest breaking news. And then obviously we'll be glad to come and come before you again just like this, whenever it's reasonable. But we will keep everyone up to date as this unfolds. We should know more by the end of maybe by the end of this week. This is moving really quick.
So tell me, Tennessee's responsibility in this is to do what?
To let the contract for this maintenance work. Okay. They're responsible for any maintenance work on the bridge. So,
and we are to pay for it?
Half of it.
Half of it. So we're going to split that cost?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I know that this is a difficult time, but I anticipate that y'all are up to the task.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Chesterfield. Next is 113. Who is that? All right. Representative Ladyman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A lot of my questions have been answered, and I hope I don't repeat some of the questions. But the plate that was spliced onto their phase one that you talked about, which does not allow traffic on the bridge, is that correct?
That's correct.
So what's the purpose of phase one?
To stabilize the existing, in the condition it's in, is still relatively unstable.
To prevent it from getting worse?
Yes, sir.
So can you tell, and maybe I missed this earlier, I got in there late, but can you tell the age of that crack? I hear people say that's been there a long time, but how do you know when that crack formed?
We've been able to confirm as early as 2019 that the crack was present. That's as early as we can confirm.
How do you confirm that?
We had drone video footage from our consultant inspector.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's all the questions. Thank you.
Next in the queue is 129. Who is that? 129. Go ahead. Senator Eads.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned that, and you won't know for a while whether this is actual a weld failure or actual failure of the beam, but when this was designed, it's obviously to spread the weight out throughout the entire structure of something of this magnitude. Is there a concern in the meantime that during these last couple years that this has put extra stress then on other areas, because obviously this beam is not carrying its percentage of the weight of the structure?
My understanding from the design experts is that this bridge was designed in a manner that it does not redistribute the load, and that's what makes this fracture critical, is that it's carrying the majority of the load.
Okay, so there's no concern that this is putting extra stress on other areas of the bridge that wouldn't normally have then?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next in the queue is 130. Representative Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Tudor, approximately when did drone reviews of the Hernando de Soto Bridge begin, the drone inspections?
2019, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Michael Baker, who was our consultant that inspected the arches, started using drone video footage to supplement their hands-on inspection in 2019. It's relatively new technology for this purpose. And in fact, the department is going to start doing the same thing as well, using drone video. We've purchased a drone.
So whose responsibility is it to review that drone footage?
That was part of Michael Baker's responsibility, and it was part of their inspection of the trusses. But again, Michael Baker has no responsibility in missing that. It was like a 1-second little clip out of a 5-hour video. That wasn't their responsibility to go through that and look for anything on the beam. We were responsible for the beam. So I don't want to in any way make you think that Michael Baker is responsible for missing that crack. It's our responsibility.
Okay, follow up, Mr. Chair? Okay. Director Tudor, I know it's been mentioned a couple of times you were not the director at the time. That was Scott Bennett. What was your title in 2019, and what were your responsibilities in that role?
In 2019, I was the Deputy Director, Chief Operating Officer, and I was second in command. So, you know, I guess I would be to blame for it being missed in 2019 as well. You're correct.
Okay, thank you.
Next in the queue is 127, Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lorie, this has been brought to our attention now, and so what kind of re-verification have we done, the process that we're doing to go over other checks on other bridges, overpasses that this employee has verified over the years? And the second part of that is the inspection that was done on the Highway 55 bridge, was that done by employees? He said it was not the same guy who were trained by the employee who was terminated?
No, sir. And can you repeat the first question? I'm sorry.
Okay, first question is, are y'all re-verifying checks on other bridges and overpasses that this employee who was terminated over the last year or two completed?
Yes, sir. We started that this morning, and we should be able to complete every structure that he was team leader on over the last year. We'll have inspected by the middle of next month.
Okay, thank you. I want to re-verify one thing, though. The highway bridge on 55 in no way is associated with someone who trained the other employees or the employees who were working on Interstate 40 bridge. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's according to my heavy bridge maintenance engineer, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next in the queue is 111. Who is 111? Senator Pitch.
Chairman, as an engineer, I'm looking at the pictures, putting pieces together, and the 2019 picture shows several problems that may have been missed. Have we checked into the vertical tube that clearly has damage right above the crack? If you have that picture, I'd like you to look at that. Because to me, if it is on a weld seam, as you alluded to, it's probably fatigue of heat when it was welded, because the tear isn't straight along a weld, it's vertical. But right above that, and approximately putting pictures together, 4 feet roughly behind it, is a vertical beam that about an inch on a picture scale clearly has a bang in it and a ding on it.
Is this,
I'm sorry, some people are asking questions.
That.
Picture they show me is a drain pipe.
It's a direct drain.
Okay, so there's no structure there?
No, sir.
But could that, I mean, that wouldn't have been put in place with that large of a damage to it in a geographical close area.
We looked at that bent part.
We need him to come up.
We believe that's what they bent that.
You need to come up.
Yeah, if you would just come up and state your name and your title.
State your name and title.
Mike Hill, I'm the State Heavy Bridge Maintenance Engineer.
Go ahead.
Well, I guess my question, if that is a drain pipe, it's clearly taken damage, and it appears to be, and I was trying to put it on the same vertical line, but I don't have enough data to do so between the two pictures.
Right.
But in 2019, it has some damage to it, which would have been in that geographical location. The second thing I saw in that picture and would like you to address in a question is about what I would appear 8 feet left close to the other drain pipe. At the top corner appears to be another crack or a fissure in a plate. And so my question is, I know when steel factories give you steel, there's often x-rays, cross-sectionals. And do we have cross-sectionals of this plate steel that was put in play? Because if again, I go back to the crack on the right, the crack in question, that doesn't follow a straight weld seam. It looks like it may be a distortion or a tear, or it took damage based upon the other. And I don't know what your thoughts are on all that, but I guess I still have questions whether that just all of a sudden started cracking and just kept climbing.
Right.
Because of damage in the general area that I can see on other structures. So.
Okay, to address the drain pipe.
Could you pull it close to you? Or?
To address the drain pipe, we went all over there thinking we were very concerned about that ourselves. What we did, we checked all the diagonals. Diagonals are the main bracing. This is just a piece of nothing.
7-point bridge.
What we believe is that at some point during the seismic retrofit, it was in the way of some of their work, so they just knocked it out of the way. That's the only thing we can come up with, because there's no deformation or anything for any of the secondary members of the tie girder or the truss.
And looking at it, you know, the uneven members all coming to a point, engineering 101, I don't see any deformation in any of those other than the same beam to the left about 8 feet, which made me wonder if something may have hit that joint, top boom or something.
There are what we call scuff marks on the bottom. And this is strictly my group. I mean, it's not been confirmed, but there are marks that look like that possibly have been scrubbed on the bottom by a large crane or something, but we can't say that. I mean, all we say is this is what it looks like. We have no evidence of that. But there are some marks on the bottom that we cannot account for. And as far as the mark on the left, it looks like a crack. We did get a call on that. Michael Baker was still on site. We called them and they basically set a drone on top of it. It's a paint run.
It's a what?
Paint run. It's just a bad paint piece. It looks like a crack, but we basically went right on top of it.
Next, next in the queue, Senator Irvin.
Hi, thank you. So just quickly, I mean, a little bit along those issues, when it's a clean, a shear like that, I mean, do you have consultants that are coming in inspecting, that are with perhaps larger states, Department of Transportation, that deal with these different issues that are coming in, looking at an inspection? And I mean, the fact that it's a clean shear to me says something other than just a broken weld. But I'm curious if you have other inspectors that come in that deal with, you know, larger bridges like the state of Florida, for instance. Are you planning to have any outside expertise to come in and to assist with this situation, but also just to kind of double track our inspections of our current infrastructure? That's my first question.
Yes, ma'am, and thank you for that question. We do have experts in this field are on site working with the design team, and the forensics will be performed by the Federal Highway Administration. So there are many experts that have been brought in to review this particular instance, and then we'll also review the remainder of the structure.
All right, second question. Are you going to bring in any consulting and to review your internal processes for investigations? Are you going to be bringing in consultants to help you with improving your processes, or how are we to, or is that going to just be internal with yourselves, or are you bringing in extras?
No, ma'am. We are going to bring in outside eyes. We've already got Federal Highway Administration that's going to do a thorough review of our processes. And I've already, Rex and I have discussed that possibly bring in consultants as well. We'd like to see what Federal Highway says. They do these audits, or they call them reviews, all over the nation and compare our program with others. And so they'll give us some great insight in what we need to do to change, and then we might have to supplement that with a consultant. We're still, like I said, we just discovered this flaw in our processes last Friday. We're still trying to figure out what we're going to do moving forward. But we do know for sure Federal Highway's coming in. We do know for sure we're going to start adding redundancy with the drones. We do know for sure that we're going to figure out where the flaw or where the failure occurred. If it's isolated or if it's system-wide, we still have a lot to figure out, and we're going to figure that out. And we'll keep everyone here informed on as we move forward into our review process and figuring out. But at this moment, right now, like I said, we understand that your confidence and trust in us is
I understand that. I mean, to this point, we just need answers so that we understand systematically. I mean, I drove over the bridge Sunday night, and it got closed, I think, 24 hours later. So are you limiting weight traffic on I-55 bridge?
No, ma'am.
You're not. Are you concerned that we perhaps might need to limit weight traffic for that bridge? Are there any steps to look to see? Because that would be catastrophic if that bridge fails in the midst of this.
Absolutely. That's why we asked Tennessee DOT to do a drone review of the bridge, of all the members, to verify if they're doing it right now. It should be done by, by the end of the day tomorrow. I don't know. But it's being done as we speak.
Okay. The employee that called in the 911 call that shut the bridge down, was that a physical inspection?
That was that happened. Michael Baker, our consultant,
He was there.
they were there on site doing an inspection of the arches.
Okay.
They just happened to see the crack and report it, and we immediately shut it down.
And so they saw that with a person on site that saw it?
Yes, and called us and called 911. It was the consultant that that saw it and said, "Oh my goodness."
Are you able to submit to us, like, in the past, since 2019, how many actual physical inspections occurred on that bridge?
Yes, ma'am, we sure can.
Okay, and then also planning forward, what you find, I'm assuming, Mr. Chair, that you would send that to us as well, as far as just a follow-up of your inspections. And
of course.
Current, and particularly I-55.
Of course, yes. We're glad to share that.
Thank you for the questions.
All right, Senator Mark Johnson, you were in the queue, and I pushed your button wrong last time, so we're going to go to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Tudor, thank you for coming here and your candor, and I won't add to your burden, but I do have a couple of questions that we need to look at for kind of long-term policy things. One of the few advantages of being older is that you talk to a lot of people and you remember a lot of things you heard. And one of your predecessors, Mr. Gray, once told me that Interstate 40 between Little Rock and Memphis was designed with the assumption that 20% of the traffic would be trucks and 80% would be cars. And anybody that's ever driven it through the years knows that that's not exactly true. And he even told me that, and this was back when he was director, so it would have been in the early 80s, that they did a survey at I-40 and Highway 1 in Forest City, and it was 81% trucks and 19% cars. So it was just the opposite of that. And he added that part of this was because that when the Rock Island Railroad went bankrupt, that the right-of-way reverted to the ownership of the state of Arkansas. And instead of bringing in another railroad to assume that asset, Governor Clinton decided to tear up the tracks and give every little town along the right-of-way that land so they could have a little park in the middle of town. And I'm not against parks, please don't think I am, but about the same time was when FedEx became a major shipping entity, both, of course, we know about the air, but subsequently trucking, and I guess Memphis is probably the biggest intermodal port in the nation that's not on a coast. And I see this, and I'm wondering, did we meaning Tennessee, Arkansas, Federal Highway Administration, did we build a bridge based on those lesser weight and number assumptions that turned out to be not exactly true due to increased traffic from closing of a major railroad and the fact that, but partially because of FedEx, that Memphis became a major trucking hub with a whole lot more than just your usual numbers of traffic, and instead of most of that being cars and people going to Graceland, there are 80,000-pound trucks in very high numbers going over that bridge. Could that have been a contributing factor? And if so, is this sort of the weak point that we're seeing from this additional gross amount of weight and amount of traffic added?
Yes, sir. Our interstate system was not designed to the standards that they're now having to provide service for. And yes, the heavier vehicles are, you know, they do damage to our infrastructure now. And because of those situations where the things are so different now than they were in 1960, and our infrastructure's having to take care of that, but they weren't really designed to take care of that. It's an issue all over the country, but it doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time, and we'll just start seeing, you know, we're just going to have to be really, really careful going forward that we you know, we keep up with the, the accelerated damage on the roads because of the additional weight and additional traffic on the roads. And it's just as we move forward, we'll just have to be.
Quick follow-up, Mr. Chairman. Director Tudor, I'm glad you, I hate to say confessed to that, but acknowledged what is a fact. But when we go over a road, an interstate highway that, is rough or has a lot of bumps and jars you around, that's an annoyance, but it's not life-threatening usually. Mm-hmm. And these bridges, though, are life-threatening. Do we need to maybe change some priorities as far as our maintenance situation to, while we all want perfectly smooth roads everywhere across the state, we know that, this one is a potentially life-threatening thing. Do we need to reevaluate that whole timetable of maintenance just to kind of emphasize where the danger points might be?
Absolutely. And not that there's ever a good time to face something like this. It just happens to be right before we adopt our budget for July 1st, 2021. So Mike and his group are working with Rex to come up with anything you need. Anything you need to make this a better program, I want to know right now, and we'll put that into the budget. And that will mean money coming from other places. Obviously, there's a finite amount of money. But we are definitely going to invest in this to make this a better program and to take care of our bridges and to make sure they're safe for all public, everyone, commercial motor vehicles as well as passenger vehicles. It's very, very important, and we understand the gravity of this. So, thank you. You're welcome.
106, who is that? Representative Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going back to what Senator Pitch was asking about with the drainage, if you look at the 2019 photo, it shows a definite dent and rust spot. And when you look in the 2021 photo of the fracture, it doesn't show that dent or the rust in that drainage. So that leads me as a layperson to believe that somebody's been up there and fixed that drainage between 19 and 2021, and they failed to report the fracture. Is that not another issue? Is it a different?
Drain pipe, if you look on 2021, clear back pipe joint, you see about the bottom 3 inches.
Okay. All right. Two different. Okay. Thank you.
Hold on. You got?
Is Representative Wardlaw here?
No.
Oh. Well, he had a concern about the picture as well. It looked like there was the beginning of a crack over to the left of the big crack. And we obviously went to great extent to figure out if that was an optical illusion or true. And Michael Baker verified it was an optical illusion from the picture.
Did he all? I don't know what number you are. What? 111.
You got people. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got it on the queue. We have. It has Representative Wardlaw. I don't have any idea what number you are. I'll just push your button and see. Representative Fight.
All right, Director Tudor, do you know the 2019 video that was placed on social media? Do you know who placed it on social media?
We do not. I was asking that today. Some individual, it wasn't from that Michael Baker video, from what I understand. It was a private individual. And I got an email just the other day that was from a private citizen that said they had drone footage that they'd like to share with me. And I haven't followed through with that, but it was a private drone video from 2019.
And follow up, please. So you're not sure why they didn't share it with you if they had it in 2019 then?
No,
okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, Representative Beatty.
Director Tudor, understanding that the majority of bridge inspections and assessments are by visual inspection, and that it's complex, time-consuming, and prone to error, which has gotten us to where we are today. Just a quick internet search, you see a lot of Department of Transportations in other states that are researching use of modern technology and terrestrial laser scanners for assessment of bridge structure and condition. I was wondering if the department has pursued this avenue of bridge assessment, and if not, is it something that you would look into?
I'd like to pass that question over to Mike, our heavy bridge maintenance engineer.
Yes, there's a lot of new technology out there, and we do keep up with it. We don't necessarily perform all the research, but we know the people doing the research. The lasers, in that case, would be very difficult in a case like this because everything obstructs. The laser light has to hit it, so you would have to keep moving your device all over the place. But we do use other electronic devices. We have ultrasonic devices that we use to check thicknesses of metal and other such things. So we use more than just a visual.
And then a different line, just one question. Okay. And then just one different question that I haven't heard addressed yet. With this being a manual process and it also being prone to error, at what level, I would like a discussion of what level of review all the bridge assessments go through within the department, from the time the assessment's prepared until you feel comfortable with that and present that to your board.
Sure. On our process, basically what we've got the main inspector, and we have an assistant inspector. And depending on these big structures, we have possibly 2 teams. Sometimes we put 3 teams on it. And what they do, whoever is putting in the data or took the data, it is verified by the other one. And so they have to sign off. So there's 2 people signing off on each, at least 2 people signing off in each inspection. So that's.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I keep turning it off.
Go ahead.
So it basically just the team, someone else is double checking their work. So there's no.
Well, there is some additional things. When the maintenance needs, those things all go to, like on these big structures, they go to the staff heavy bridge maintenance engineer, and he will go and review all the maintenance needs that are marked and make a decision what goes to monitor, what goes to we need to repair it, and sometimes they say, well, we'll repair this the next time we go back. And same thing on the state bridges. All of the ones where we think the maintenance needs, the problems, they all go to an engineer to review first, the construction engineer who operates as the local program manager for the bridges throughout the state and the districts. And then that goes to the maintenance engineer. The maintenance engineer then reviews it and decides what do I need to fix and what do I keep and monitor. So in the districts, that would be 2 engineers looking at all the maintenance needs, which are the most critical items that we find on our inspections.
Quick follow-up?
Quick.
Very quick. Based on what you just said, were there any maintenance or anything identified within the proximity of this crack on this bridge within the last 3 years?
No.
None?
No maintenance needs in our report in that area.
In the last 3 years?
Correct.
Thank you.
Except for flaking paint. I'll say that. There was, at a joint. And that's the only thing we had for that area.
Representative Vaught, I think you're next in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for you, and then I have a question for them. So if they have updated progress on the drone on I-55, can they bring it to full ALC to give us a report on what it looks like, where we're at on that project, and then any updates that they might have on the I-40 bridge? Could that be a possibility of them bringing to full ALC so before we go home, we actually have an update?
What possible one of you have availability for Friday if there's any updates for the full ALC.
What time Friday?
Starts at 9.
9 a.m.
Okay, we'll,
Whether it be Gil or whoever, there's somebody that can, if there's an update that they could give or
Sure.
whoever's available. I know you guys.
we'll
you
make
guys are
ourselves
needed.
available. It's not a problem.
I mean, if there's no update, there's no need to come, but if there is an update from the drone, then I would like for us to know before we leave to go home.
Absolutely, we'll make sure of that.
And then my other question is, are there any pictures or any, I don't know when y'all started doing drone, but any pictures prior to 2019 that shows what this looked like prior to?
No, ma'am.
And will this be something y'all will do from now on? You'll truly, I'm sorry, a follow-up?
Go
I'm
ahead.
so sorry.
Go ahead.
Is this something that you're going to do? It's going to be from now on, you're going to truly assess every single drone?
Yes, ma'am.
And make sure that you do it by second to make sure that we don't
It's part
fall
of
into this again?
Yes, ma'am. This is a redundancy that we're adding to the process. Along with others, we're still figuring all this out, but that's an easy fix. That's easy, so.
And one more follow-up, and then I'll be quiet. Are there any other bridges that y'all are truly worried about besides I-40 and I-55 that you know of that are in the same kind of danger zone as maybe those two could be because of weights, because of the traffic that goes over them?
We have issues on bridges.
We have several bridges that are in poor condition. This is a very unique design. This is the only one in the state of Arkansas. So we don't anticipate there being any other with any immediate danger.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. 127, is that Senator Hill? Or is that Senator
See him, he
Garner?
hit the button.
Do what?
Go ahead. You're on. I guess I'm on now.
Go ahead, Senator Garner.
So I know there was a recent legislative study from an outside consultant group that highlighted numerous issues with the ARDOT as they saw it, from non-existing processes to non-redundancies to kind of oversight issues across the board. Seems like this is the same kind of issue that we saw come up that allowed this employee to be negligent in this case. And when those questions came up in that subcommittee, over and over again, we heard that's in review. Today, you've mentioned once again that this process is in review. So directly, will you be providing a step-by-step processes to the legislative through ALC or through some things that explains both how the redundancies will work and how you will address this moving forward? And if so, can you give us any kind of generalized timeline on when we can expect that?
Yes, sir, we will provide that. And as far as a timeline, can we do it in phases? Because it's probably going to take a while to get it all put together, but can we give you phase updates on how we move forward in improving our process?
Yes, ma'am. And I'd prefer written policies that show how you will address this, how this redundancy will happen, how there will be checks and balances and review process across the board for this and for other issues as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The feds are evaluating that right now, right?
They're waiting until, right now, the big focus is the bridge. And they said, when I talked to our division administrator, she said in the next month or so, we'll be coming in to do a review. They're going to wait until we kind of get settled down. But it will happen in the very near future. But at the same time, we're not waiting for that. We're looking right now, what can we do right now? And that's why I'm talking about a phased approach. We can see low-hanging fruit, what we could do right now, and then we're going to refine that as we go along, get the feedback from Federal Highway, possibly bring in a consultant. So it's going to take us some time, but we're right now already got ideas of how to improve. So we'll do that for you, for Senator Garner, and for the whole group, so you can see how we make progress.
All right. Thank you, Director Tudor. 127, Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to follow up on my question a while ago that I asked about the reinspection of the bridges. Have y'all actually found any damage so far at any other bridges with your reinspections from the former employee?
We just started this morning, so we do not have a report on that yet.
Okay, and you said you're going to be through by next Friday?
No, no, sir. We will be by the middle of next month.
No, next, okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, 113, all right, go ahead, Senator, or Representative Lademan.
I'll try to be quick on this, but listening to everything here, have you all had the support that you need from the federal government, the Department of Transportation?
Yes, sir. They've been great partners, and they're helping us through this. Yes, we have had support.
Well, the reason I asked that question, and maybe I'll form this in a question, but, you know, Washington is talking about spending trillions of dollars on infrastructure, and this is a main artery across the country. We think about it as local, but it's a main artery all the way across the country. So I would think that the federal government would be all over this thing, and there'd be people coming down here to standing behind you, asking you what you need, and I don't see that. I don't see it coming out of Washington. So do we need to call our congressman and senator and say, go down and knock on the door and get you more help, or are you okay?
Well, I know our congressional delegation has met with Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, and there is huge amounts of conversation going on. Yesterday, we had a press conference, and a documentary team was there filming me in this situation as part of the failing infrastructure in the United States. There's a huge amount of conversation going on, and this just highlights the need for investment in the United States or in the U.S. infrastructure. I feel like the conversation was very positive before this happened, and now it's become even more positive. I think everyone understands the need for funding for infrastructure. So I misunderstood your question at the beginning, but I will tell you they are watching this very closely. We're getting national attention right now, and I have gone so far to say is when the questions come to me, well, where's the funding going to come from? I have said, don't worry about the funding. I have full confidence in our governor, in our legislature, and in our congressional delegation that if we can't absorb the fix in our budget, you will come to the table and it's going to happen. We're not going to leave that bridge closed. And we're going to make sure it's done right. So, yes, they have been partners with us, and they're watching this, and I foresee this meaning more funding in the future, in the near future. Mm-hmm.
Representative Nix.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quick. Once phase one is completed, the plates put on, is there a possibility that one or two lanes each way can be open before the whole project is completed?
Not according to the experts. This is just to stabilize the structure, phase one.
So we can be assured that all the traffic on I-40 will be closed until the final completion of the project?
Yes, sir.
Didn't want to hear that.
I'm sorry to tell you.
So that is a 900-foot span that this crack is in, right? There's two 900.
209-foot spans, yes.
All right. So will that whole beam, is that the plan to replace that beam from underneath with?
No, sir, just the fractured section.
Just that fractured section, not
Yes,
the
sir.
whole 900.
They'll post-tension the bridge, kind of suck it in, take the tension off of that fractured section, remove it, and replace it with a new section.
All right. That's, I was just, you know what I mean? That seemed like a logistic nightmare if you're trying to replace a 900-foot span. So I see no other questions in the queue. Co-chair, have any questions? You've been awful quiet. Just one question? No. Well,
I could, but they don't have the answer.
I appreciate your indulgence. I know you've had a very busy week, and we appreciate your work. And any updates, if you could, put all the members of the committee in those updates. And if you have any of those drone footage updates for Friday, if Gil could bring them to the full ALC, we'd appreciate it.
We will keep you we will keep you updated every step of the way.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Rex.
Thank you.
Have a better week.